Well, howdy folks, it's Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician here. I want to talk to you about diagnosis, just kind of give you some general idea on how diagnosis works, and I'd like to use this 1999 Suzuki. It's actually going to be a 99 2000 year model Suzuki Grand Vitara 2.5 liter. Now, diagnosis for me, it actually doesn't start nor does it stop with the vehicle. Okay, the vehicle is a major part of it, but for me, the most important part of a diagnosis is actually communication with the owner. Most importantly, the person that drives the vehicle all day, every day, basically. And what I normally do, it's really just a process of elimination and investigation, asking questions and figuring everything out. I even get crazy sometimes and ask them to simulate noises, role play with me if they have to show me what their car was doing. So that way I can better go in and recreate the problem and see it for myself and fix it. Now, this vehicle came to me from another shop. From what I understand, it was diagnosed as a bad head gasket because it had been overheating. And so, unfortunately, that shop, their price was a little too high for the owner, so they got a hold of me to ask me if I could go through it and possibly repair it for cheaper than they could, which, as you know, here working out of my home, that is something that I'm capable of doing. So as they came last night, about 7 o'clock last night, I first asked them where the vehicle would be coming from, and from what I understand, it was on the other side of town. It took them about 45 minutes drive time to get here. During that 45 minutes that they were driving this vehicle, it did not overheat, okay? As the vehicle was pulling in and they dropped it off, as it was running, I noticed that there was no blue smoke coming out of the tailpipe. So already we were missing symptoms that are directly associated with a bad head gasket. There was no smoke, no blue smoke coming out of the tailpipe. Vehicle had not overheated while it was driving over here. And for the most part, it seemed to be running just fine. However, that does not mean that there's not a problem, and that does not mean that the vehicle does not overheat, because it does. So, one of the questions that I asked the driver of the vehicle last night as they drove it over here was, since it was so cold out, I think it was like 25 degrees out, since it was so cold out, did you or did you not use the heater while you were driving? To which I was told, yes, I did run the heater. Now then, if you know anything about thermostats, heaters, and vehicles, if your car is ever overheating and you're driving down the road, you can turn your heater on. And by doing that, it actually opens up the thermostat, allows the coolant to travel through the engine and the system in order to get to the heater core, and kind of acts like a secondary radiator for you there. And it'll actually help keep your car cool, so you can limp it to a nearest shop or get home, change the thermostat, change the water pump, or change whatever's going out on you. But bottom line is, you run the heater and you have a minor problem like a bad water pump or a bad thermostat or something like that, more than likely the car's not going to overheat. So I found out last night that they were running the heater. Now, with it being 25, 26 degrees out, and the fact that they were running the heater, chances are, if we're looking at something like a bad water pump or a fan, chances are it's not going to overheat because it's cool enough outside to keep the engine cool. So, that's a lot of information to try to figure out and whatnot. So I decided that the first thing I would do is I would go ahead and check the water pump. Now, again, the vehicle's been sitting, so I got it hooked up to a second battery so I can get it jump started. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get the vehicle started. And the first thing I'm going to look for to see if there's any smoke coming out of the tailpipe once I get it started. I'm going to watch it and see how long it's going to take to overheat. And then I'm going to remove, which you can already see I already have actually, I'm going to remove my radiator cap, and I want to see if the coolant is circulating in the radiator. If the coolant is not circulating in the radiator, then that's a good indication that the water pump is bad. And my next step will be to remove the belt from the water pump and go ahead and spin it freely with my hands. A free spinning water pump that spins easily and freely is a bad water pump, and it is not circulating the water correctly within your engine. You want some resistance on that water pump. You only want it to turn a quarter turn, maybe a half turn if you spin it freely. So that's what we're going to do, folks. First, I'm going to go ahead and get this vehicle started. I'll show you some signs and symptoms to look for concerning a bad head gasket. And then from there, we're going to start checking things like the water pump, the cooling fans, the thermostat, all that type of stuff. All right, folks, so I'm going to pause it and get ready to start this vehicle. I'll be right back. Okay, so we got it started. Now, right off the bat, and I've actually had it started and running before, we know that the fan kicks on. So we're good there. Now then, I also have the AC running, okay, because I want the AC puts the engine under a load, and I want to see how long it takes to overheat, if it's going to overheat with the AC running. I'm going to go back here. Hey Ruby, come here. I'm going to go back here, and you notice there's no smoke or even exhaust coming out of the tailpipe. So again, I'm going to outrule a head gasket. Looks like I got to get my dog wandering off. Ruby, get over here now. Come on. All right. So the next step now, since I've checked all of that, is to go ahead and pull the radiator cap. All right, look at that. I'm gonna give it some gas. I guarantee you that coolant is not circulating whatsoever. When I give it the gas, that makes the water pump move faster. That coolant should be sucked down in there, but it's not. Okay, so with those signs and symptoms, I'm gonna go ahead and say that it's gonna be the water pump is going out. So what I'm gonna do next is go ahead and get my belt off of the water pump, and I'm gonna spin that water pump freely with my hand, and I wanna see how loose that water pump actually is, because again, if the bearings are loose in that water pump and there's no resistance with that water pump, then it's not properly circulating the coolant. And you can see with your own eyes that the coolant is not circulating. Let's go ahead and put that back on. I'm gonna pause it. I'm gonna get that belt off. All right, folks. So I loosened the adjusting bolt on the tensioner for the alternator, and that's gonna be the belt that drives your water pump. So I loosened that, pushed it forward, removed my belt. Now watch what happens when I spin the water pump. I don't know if you can hear that whining noise. First of all, that's a free spinning water pump. That's bad. Second of all, if you can hear it, you hear it whining in there? So there you go, folks. Just as I suspected, if we put a new thermostat and a new water pump on this Suzuki Grand Vitara, it will stop overheating and it'll get back on the road. Saving these people a ton of money and saving them the hassle and the nightmare of replacing a cylinder head gasket, because that's no fun and that's always extremely expensive. So, all right, everybody. Well, this is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me and learning. Please leave a comment. Please like and subscribe. Also share the knowledge. Just to let you know, I'm still working on doing live feeds. I think I'll do one right now about every week around Friday or Saturday, where you can come and ask questions, and you know, we can hang out and talk cars and mechanical stuff and all that other cool stuff. So I want to thank everybody for supporting me. Thanks for watching. I am signing off.